This video was made in collaboration with Narutopedia. For more information, check out the link in the description. Gaara's abilities from Naruto. Having been trained since infancy as Suna's ultimate weapon, Gaara was exceptionally strong even as a child, effortlessly killing the countless assassins sent after him. As a genin, he became known internationally for completing B-rank missions. He also set the record time of completing the Chūnin Exams in the Forest of Death, and unscathed, a feat normally incapable for a Chūnin. By part 2, Gaara becomes Suna's 5th Kazekage, tasked with leading and protecting the entire village. His fellow Kage initially doubted his worthiness due to his young age, but come to respect him by the Fourth Shinobi World War, where he was appointed the commander-in-chief of the Allied Shinobi Forces combat divisions. The reincarnated Kage that Gaara fights, including his father, also come to approve of his abilities after he defeats them. He could hold his own against 5 of Madara Uchiha's Susanoo-clad wood clones for some time. As an adult, Gaara's prowess had grown to the point where he could hold his own against opponents of the Ōtsutsuki Clan. Fighting alongside Shukaku, he was able to hold off and eventually seal Urashiki temporarily while in battle. Welcome to the Amagi. In today's video, we're going over Gaara's abilities. Before we begin, we publish a new video every day, so be sure to subscribe to our channel and ring the bell to get notified about our latest videos. Chakra and physical prowess. Gaara has large reserves of strong chakra, a fact Akamaru recognizes even before Gaara has performed any technique. His chakra levels are partly because he's the Jinchuriki of Shukaku, but even after Shukaku is removed from his body in part 2, there is no noticeable difference in his performance. In battle, Gaara tends to stay away from his opponents and rarely uses taijutsu. In the anime, he acknowledges this as a shortcoming and therefore trains with Shira to improve his abilities. In the novelization of Boruto, Naruto the movie, Kinshiki Ōtsutsuki regards Gaara's taijutsu as being on par with Naruto Uzumaki, Sasuke Uchiha, and Darui, stating that their skill in this particular style of combat is first class. Ninjutsu. His nature transformations include earth, lightning, and wind release, the latter of which he often mixes with his sand in order to increase its speed and coverage area. In Gaara Hiden, Gaara is shown to have inherited the magnet release Kage Genkai from Shukaku, which he avoids using in battle so he can have it as a last resort that opponents won't know about. He can use his magnet release to increase the density of his chakra and sand, thereby strengthening his defenses. Sand manipulation. As Shukaku's Jinchuriki, Gaara is able to manipulate sand. He carries a supply of sand wherever he goes in a gourd, which itself is made from sand. This personal sand is infused with his own chakra, allowing him to deploy it faster and manipulate it more precisely. If he needs more sand, he can either use sand from his surroundings, or if there isn't any, use his personal sand to break down minerals in the ground to create some. These secondary sand supplies require more chakra to control. Gaara's ability to manipulate sand remains even after Shukaku is removed from his body. Indeed, upon seeing how much sand Gaara can control at once, the 4th Kazekage wrongly assumes it is Shukaku itself doing so. Gifted with powerful defensive ninjutsu, Gaara's usual tactic is to remain stationary in battle, using his sand to attack opponents from afar. The attacks typically follow the same formula: capture and immobilize the target, such as with the sand-binding coffin, and then crush all parts of their body, such as with the sand waterfall funeral. If opponents are able to get close enough to attack him, Gaara's shield of sand automatically protects him from all threats, even those he's not aware of. The shield of sand is commonly thought to be Shukaku's doing, an act of self-preservation, but it is actually Gaara's mother, Karura, whose love protects Gaara even after her death. If the shield of sand is penetrated, either through speed or brute force, Gaara also has access to a secondary armor of sand covering his body. However, it requires an impractical amount of chakra to maintain for long periods of time and weighs him down. Nevertheless, Gaara's sand is extremely effective at keeping him safe, earning fame as an absolute defense and allowing him to go for years without experiencing a single injury. By adulthood, Gaara's shield of sand defense increased tremendously, able to shrug off attacks that Sasuke Uchiha's majestic attire Susanoo could not. Gaara's sand is highly malleable and can be used for any number of purposes. Often this is used to protect others, such as with a wall for one person, or in his capacity as Kazekage, a shield as large as Suna. Offensively, he can shape sand shuriken or sand swords. Gaara also has a variety of supplementary uses for his sand: a form of flight for himself and others, a method of sensing concealed targets, a sand clone to reinforce himself or allies, and a third eye for reconnaissance. During the Fourth Shinobi World War, he uses the desert-layered Imperial Funeral Seal to serve the same functioning purpose as the cloth binding technique, giving him a way of stopping reincarnated opponents. Jinchuriki Transformations. The one-tailed Shukaku is a very valuable resource in battle, but like all tailed beasts, becoming able to use it effectively takes a great deal of time and effort on Gaara's part. During their first conversation when Gaara was a child, Shukaku warned Gaara that it would take control of his body and start killing people if he ever fell asleep, preventing Gaara from getting a full night's sleep for the duration of his time as a Jinchuriki. Even while awake, Shukaku's powers were a constant risk, causing the young Gaara to inadvertently kill those around him, and in moments of particular stress, unleash Shukaku upon Suna. Gaara is able to keep Shukaku in check under normal circumstances by part 1. Like all Jinchuriki, Gaara can transform into his tailed beast. Whereas other Jinchuriki achieve this transformation using only Chakra, Gaara does so using sand. By layering sand onto parts of his body, he transforms those body parts into human-sized versions of Shukaku's. The more of his body that's transformed in this way, the more his speed and strength increase. As a consequence, however, Shukaku's personality starts influencing his own the more advanced the transformation, making Gaara increasingly homicidal. He has seemingly mastered the transformation enough by part 2 that he can at least create Shukaku's arms without this happening. In the final stage, Gaara creates a full-size Shukaku form, which he ordinarily remains safe deep within. By emerging from the form and putting himself to sleep, Gaara can transfer control of the body to Shukaku itself. Intelligence. Gaara is a sharp and innovative fighter. His large array of sand-based jutsu are crafted by and unique to him. He has an eye for detail, able to quickly identify his opponent's vulnerabilities, and acts on his observations with his versatile sand. He was acknowledged as the Golden Egg by the second Kage due to his high intelligence. He also displayed a mastery in deception, as he was able to trap several powerful opponents on various occasions. Personality. Gaara was consistently warm to others during his early life. Although most of Suna's villagers feared and despised him, he was able to persevere due to the love he felt from Yashimaru and his mother. His father, Rasa, believed these niceties were impeding Gaara's development as a Jinchuriki, and as such had both taken from him. He ordered Yashimaru to try and kill Gaara, and if he were to fail, to tell Gaara that neither he nor Gaara's mother had ever loved him. Rasa's plan succeeded, as following Yashimaru's death, Gaara stopped trying to connect with people. Rather, Gaara focused on himself, driven solely by his own desires and his own survival. During his years of caring only about himself, Gaara becomes infamously known as Gaara of the Sand Waterfall. Though he outwardly appears calm, Gaara of the Sand Waterfall is deeply unbalanced, completely unmoved by others' pleas for mercy, and in certain situations driven mad with bloodlust. This behavior is partly due to Shukaku, whose voice Gaara alone can hear in his head, who encourages violence at every opportunity and who torments Gaara with threats to take control of his body if he falls asleep, thus making Gaara an insomniac. But Shukaku is not wholly responsible. Gaara simply hates other people for existing, believing that so long as they're alive, they're a threat to his own life. His purpose, therefore, is to kill anyone who is strong or whom he perceives as similar to himself, as only by killing them can he assert his own existence. With those who do not interest him, Gaara is typically withdrawn and silent. When he must interact with them, he does so with open disregard for their feelings and often threatens to kill them, even his own siblings, if they become too much of a nuisance to him. Gaara's background is very similar to that of Naruto Uzumaki. Both have been Jinchuriki since the day they were born, both were hated by almost everyone in their village, and both were raised without a parent's love. But whereas Gaara eventually gave up on other people, Naruto continued trying to win the acknowledgement of his peers and village, pursuits he eventually succeeds at. Whereas Gaara seeks strength in only protecting himself, Naruto seeks strength in protecting the friends he makes. When the two fight during the Konoha Crush and Naruto defeats Gaara, Gaara takes this as proof that his own choices in life were wrong. He had surrendered to his difficult circumstances too easily. From that point onward, he starts moving away from Gaara of the Sand Waterfall and starts emulating Naruto instead, improving his relationships with his siblings, making friends within Suna and without, and finding something that he's willing to give his life to protect. His relationship with Shukaku did improve somewhat when he told the tailed beast that he used to hate it, but was grateful to the beast because he was able to meet Naruto due to the painful life Shukaku made him endure. Gaara became Suna's Kazekage by the start of part 2, signaling the success of his emulation of Naruto. As Kazekage, Gaara becomes much wiser than most people his age when he took on the role. He forgave his father for trying to assassinate him as he was only trying to protect the village. Gaara also gains a new purpose in life by dedicating all his energy towards serving the village and those who live there. Although he retained some detractors, most of the villagers adore him and will do what they can to help him reform Suna and the rest of the world. Even this reform is very much inspired by Naruto, as he wishes for the 5 Kage and their hidden villages to cooperate and benefit from each other in the same way that he has benefited from Naruto's influence. Gaara believes in forgiving past differences and strife, abandoning antiquated concepts of honor that only promote isolation, and serving a purpose greater than oneself. As in Suna, this unity that Gaara advocates is slow to catch on, for a time only gaining support from Naruto's own Konohagakure. By the time of the Fourth Shinobi World War, however, the 5 Kage are convinced by Gaara, and this in turn starts trickling down to the larger Allied Shinobi Forces. Despite his history of cruelty and young age during his ascent to Kazekage, Gaara attains the love of his people by showcasing his idealism, compassion, and willingness to reform himself. A man of few words, Gaara leads by example, an assertive, thoughtful, and collective presence in the heat of diplomacy and battle, who willingly puts his life on the line for his friends and allies. Gaara's way with words, astuteness, and integrity earn him the respect of the older, more experienced Kage. Gaara's touching speech before the Allied Shinobi Forces produces a resounding response and is able to mend the rift between the 5 great shinobi countries. Gaara's superlative leadership abilities lead to his posting as regimental commander of the Allied Shinobi Forces. Gaara feels indebted to Naruto for how significantly he's changed since his time as Gaara of the Sand Waterfall. He considers Naruto his closest friend and believes all the tragedies of his childhood were worthwhile since they led him to meet Naruto. He takes part in the Fourth Shinobi World War not simply because he believes Akatsuki must be stopped, but because in doing so he can keep Naruto safe. Gaara's desire to protect Naruto at times means acting against Naruto's wishes. He knows Naruto would want to participate in the Fourth Shinobi World War to protect his loved ones, but feels Naruto would be safer if he were forbidden from doing so. Just like before, however, Naruto's desire to protect his friends gets through to Gaara, as he does not argue with his participation in the war after accepting he made an error in judgment. Gaara often cites his own experience as Gaara of the Sand Waterfall during his interactions with Sasuke and others who suffer hate and loneliness, explaining the missteps that he didn't realize he'd made until he met Naruto so that they, in turn, might realize their own. His words do not always convince them, but Gaara is able to empathize with their choices, and as with Sasuke, he even wonders if Naruto could get through to them, just as Naruto got through to him. Despite his stoic demeanor, Gaara is empathetic and in touch with his emotions, freely shedding tears at Sasuke's refusal to change his ways, and at the revelation of his mother's love for him. As an adult, Gaara becomes wiser. When some of the current Kage expressed concerns about leaving the next generation to handle the threat they would soon face because these were peaceful times they were growing up in, Gaara calmly says each generation having little faith in the next one is not an uncommon thing. His empathy was also deepened, as he was able to understand Shinki needed love to help his out-of-control magnet release, hugging him in their first meeting and adopting him to give Shinki the happy family Gaara himself didn't have. Gaara retains some social awkwardness as an adult. His nephew Shidakai noted Gaara tends to give strange gifts when he visits. Did you enjoy our video? Make sure to check out these other great videos from the Amagi, and make sure to subscribe and ring the bell to be notified about our latest videos.